Hey, how's everybody doing? Time to talk. Time to talk. Time to talk about life. Rudy with Timmy's Empire, third floor. You get the idea. So today we're going to talk about the Magic Universe Beyond. Had enough messages and questions. I kind of let a little cool-off period go by on these hot news things. You guys know that now. And I like to see what kind of comes out of it all and see what happens. So let's have a good talk, shall we? So I'm going to give you, first of all, I want to give you my opinion. Labeling as a Magic Universe Beyond is a corporate labeling thing. I think it's more about accounting, taxes, and flow through of profit and loss for Papa Hasbro, more than I think the general Magic population understands. I think, first of all, yes, we'll get into the cards themselves and the direction, but I want to focus more on the name and how they're making their own division type thing, and that's what's got people all like, oh, the reserve list is coming to an end! Sorry. It never gets old. One taco every time I hear that. That's why I'm so fluffed up with tacos. So at first I want to explain to you all on a couple businesses out in the world. One thing, I'm not going to mention any names, but I'm going to get into just some interesting examples I think you all will appreciate. First, there is a group that's publicly traded. I'm not going to give the name of it and endorse a stock or anything, but there is a tobacco/real estate group that is publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange. And they specialize in selling specific lines of tobacco products and also real estate. And it's a very interesting business model. I learned about this as a case study years ago when I had my real job. And also it was a case study that I actually looked into in college as when I was in business school for kind of, how do I say it, as kind of a research paper type thing. And I thought it was really interesting because this company essentially uses real estate. They sell tobacco, make a ton of money, and they use real estate as part of the business in similar ways that I use it for depreciation and write-offs. So, I always thought that was a very interesting concept that I wanted to mimic in my own life. So now that we understand that, let's jump to the next thing. I believe Papa Hasbro is experiencing an evolutionary time where Hasbro is seeing that certain product lines are performing extraordinarily good, while other product lines are kind of flat with no growth, and other product lines are kind of struggling in a post-virus pandemic world. I think by realigning Wizards of the Coast as a separate entity at the Hasbro level, it's going to kind of change how the accounting and the profit and the flow-throughs happen under the umbrella of Hasbro. Does that make sense, everybody? So let me explain that to you all. So let me try to make this in a very simple term, because I really don't want to get into the details. I don't like discussing taxes or personal direct things because tax law in each state with state taxes at the federal level, and there's so many different, well, that works, but in this case it doesn't. But in this case, that's the problem about discussing taxes or any form of accounting, insurance, regulation on the internet, because everyone's location is different and different rules and regulations are different to where you are. I mean, the swings are hugely different. So, I personally believe that by putting Wizards of the Coast as an equal division of Hasbro, the higher profits they're expecting and the extremely large growth, because it's probably their largest growth driver, if not one of the top tier in all the categories that Hasbro has, I think the profits can be used to offset things in a different way. That's the kind of way regarding the corporate Wizards of the Coast building for depreciation and write-offs. And also the profit being a lot larger in Wizards of the Coast with Magic and what they see as the future, may better offset certain losing divisions of Hasbro that may have flat or negative sales growth. Or maybe they have a division in Hasbro that they want to expand. Maybe they call up Timmy's Empire and they say, hey, we want to buy this giant warehouse. We want to expand production and distribution or storage of print run products, and we're going to buy this warehouse for, I don't know, Wizards of the Coast. So when they buy that and they establish a new stream of depreciation on the real estate, maybe that's going to flow through differently to some other categories versus having it as a subsidiary versus, that's all I kind of really want to say. I don't want to get too detailed because most people are just going to be like, this is stupid and boring. But overall, the Wizards Universe Beyond and realigning Wizards with Hasbro as a different category, I believe, is firmly an accounting term. And it's being done for accounting and profit and loss reasons. No other reason. Not to expand or remove the reserve list, not to make Magic cards free and we hand them out the drive-thru. All this goofy stuff you'll see on the internet, I strictly think is due to the generally accepted accounting principles of the publicly traded companies regulation. That's what I really think. So, those of you all sat through that, now let's get into the next thing. Of course, it's been another 2 years, so Wizards must change the Wizards of the Coast company logo, because that's how you know they're serious. You know, it's funny how Wizards of the Coast and Magic the Gathering had a very distinctive Magic and Wizards logo for, like, ages. And it's funny how now in, like, the last 10 years, every couple of years, they're designing new logos and trying to make it reinvented. And I love when companies feel that, like, that's gonna help their brand, or that's gonna help increase profits by putting thoughts and R&D in it just cracks me up. And, you know, something a lot of you have noticed is I've never changed the Alpha Investments logo. I haven't added fancy editing, haven't added any editor. Sometimes I like to edit myself and do some little fun videos, but I keep everything very simplistic. I believe simplicity will always remain king, and I think the flashier does not always mean the better. So, Universe Beyond. I think Wizards knows with the massive expansion into different IPs and crossovers with different brands and movie, video game characters and lines, and I think they know big numbers and big profit is coming. I think they know it. And I think they've known it for a while. I think they've had many corporate meetings on it. And I think they've been planning this for the last couple of years. And once they started doing, I think their first test run was the Ikoria Godzilla crossover. I think once they saw the success that had, even in a 2020 era, which, by the way, I just want to lay it out there. If that Ikoria Godzilla 2020 set was not released in 2020, if that product was released in 2018, 2017, around Hour of Devastation or Iconic Masters, that would have probably been the best-selling Magic set of all time. The fact Ikoria blew out numbers and did amazing in the middle of 2020, released right in the shutdowns, is an incredible, I don't know, incredible set of data. Just want to lay that out there. I really think Wizards knows this is coming. I think Wizards also knows that their R&D is trying to branch out. I think they've learned and realized that it's less risky for them to make crazy mechanics that can break the game and cause bannings versus doing crossovers with art and styles of different genres and IPs. And IP is intellectual property. In other words, Ghostbusters and Lord of the Rings and Harry Potters, and, you know, these are all, you know, maybe brands that some, maybe Wizards has some interest in. Some Wizards has to pay a fee, Walking Dead, to use the intellectual property from those companies. Some people believe this is a new version of pseudo-reserve list for the future. And there's a lot of interesting arguments with that. And I do actually support an art-style reserve list. Like, you know, Therese Nielsen will never have new art redone. The Walking Dead is never going to have new art redone because they would have to repay fees just to reprint the same artwork. Now, again, reprinting those same cards with different art is definitely going to be pretty much a guarantee to happen. But, you know, it creates a pseudo art style reserve list. Kind of strange, huh? But I really think we're heading in a direction where Magic is permanently going to change. And Magic has permanently changed, starting with Throne of Eldraine and the collector boxes. Fully revealed by the time we hit Zendikar were set boxes. I think the collector box, set box, and all these variants have been in the works for a long time. We're just now slowly seeing the rollout of all of this R&D over the last 5 to 6 years. One of the reasons I like to use to solidify that theory was, you know, did you guys know Guilds of Ravnica? Ravnica Allegiance actually had collector packs. They bombed and they were garbage, but they started toying with them. Back in Guilds Return to Ravnica, they were already messing with collector packs. They just screwed them up and nobody wanted them. Very interesting, huh? And I think a lot of people are going to feel very disenfranchised, and a lot of the older players are going to get very emotional and angry about what's happening. I really do. I think it's going to make a lot of people angry, and the older players are going to lash out and lash back a lot more than the newer players, anyone who's just started playing Magic in the last 6, 12, 24 months. I think, and I know this is kind of a weird thing to say, but I actually don't think it's ever going to return to pre-War of the Spark era, when the end of that Bronze Age of Magic products occurred. I think it's a permanent change, and I don't think we ever go back. And I think that's a very difficult thing for anyone to really say, including myself, because I already miss it. Just the mental concept of knowing that that type of design and era is over with, and we're never going to get that again, is a little depressing. It's a little, it's a little kind of like disappointing, I guess is a better word to use. I really believe that moving forward, all standard products are going to have some form of crossover alternate art style, in addition to the set boxes, the collector boxes, the commander deck sets, and the draft boxes. And it is really a lot to handle. I've already started to kind of try to decide how I want to personally handle that moving forward, but I really do believe that it will be positive for Papa Hasbro and WotC. I really think that they're focusing on raw revenue and raw quantity of players who are joining and playing Magic. And I think by having crossovers to different hobbies and different fields and different interest groups, you are going to lure in new fresh blood and new fresh players from different categories every time they release a set. For example, if there are just tons of millions of people who, that's a unit of measurement, tons of millions of people. If there are, 10 million Harry Potter fans, even if 1% of those start buying some Magic because of a crossover, you're going to inject a lot of new blood to the system. If we go to, the D&D crossover, which I'm actually pretty excited to see, the millions of people who are into D&D, who don't buy Magic are going to test the waters and jump in a little bit of D&D. So you're going to indirectly lure in people who know Magic exists, but have never purchased Magic and never looked at a card and really learned the game. They're going to lure in that type of new blood. And I think that's what they want to do. And I think by keeping the R&D and the mechanics of the set the same, but just having alternate artwork versions of the same cards, they're going to achieve that by not, kind of, in their eyes at least, making it too crazy. That's what I believe their perspective to be. I think as the years go by, I think Magic the Gathering will continue to lose a lot of its core feel. I think when people look at old Magic cards, anything from 93 to 99, the end of those golden era, I think that feel of Magic will continue to get more and more distance from today's new Magic cards. I think the silver era of Magic boxes in products will continue to become extraordinarily scarce as the market realizes how undersupplied and miscalculated the market got it wrong on the supply of product left in the world. I think even the Bronze era, which has the highest quantity of sealed product left in the world, which is, just to remind you, that's Return to Ravnica, Gatecrash, Block, Ford, ending with War of the Spark. I think that particular era of Magic has the highest volume of sealed product left, but I think as the next few years unravel, even myself and everybody watching this is going to realize that even boxes from that era are going to be considered to be rare as they continue to drift up in price. We all know War of the Spark was a home run product. We know Khans of Tarkirs and Kaladesh and this and that. As we see Khans at 200s and Kaladesh at 400s and War of the Spark going up by the week, I swear. I think, the opportunity for long-term movement on these is continuing to be very high. And I think the direction of Wizards is actually what's fueling it. I don't think it's a bunch of evil collectors or investors or 3% young ladies. I don't think any of that is really targeting the product. I think those are just people looking to place money when they're getting free money from the government and they love Magic and they're just looking for something different to put money into. I do believe as we go another 3 to 5 years from now, this universe beyond, we are going to have so many crossovers that it will be difficult to know what Magic feels like. I think that Magic will lose its old school feel. The feel of modern and feel of legacy in these things are going to start to feel very strange to new players who join the game. I see a world where we drift so far into these crossovers, flashy new logos and different things that a lot of us, including myself, are going to lose sight of the actual original intended game of Magic the Gathering. Do I think that will lead to any demise or downfall or, honestly, anything bad? And this is the worst part of the video. No, I don't. I actually think doing this is going to allow Magic to flourish. And while I don't like the direction and I don't agree with the direction, I do think it will work. And I think Wizards and Papa Hasbro's data and the reflection of the gross top-line revenue will be so intense, they're going to pat themselves on the back and hold hands with their third hand and frolic through the park together because the money machine is going to go burr and just fill the house up with money. And I think that's genuinely what's going to happen. Okay? And I don't like that direction because I'd rather us stick to more. I mean, I was complaining when we did Return to Ravnica, Guilds and Allegiance. I was complaining about War of the Spark putting a Planeswalker in every pack because I thought it diluted the brand of the Planeswalker. And I still have those feelings. But compared to the directions that we're going now, those problems seem minuscule. So, yeah, that's where I stand with Universe Beyond. So for those of y'all who are too long didn't read type thing, I think Magic will continue to boom. I think it's going to boom in a different way, a different style, a different feeling. I think that the Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Flesh and Blood, even Force of Will and Digimon are actually going to do very well. I think all the alternative card games are actually going to continue to boom and really do well. I think some of that's going to be caused by shedding some Magic players who are frustrated with the continuous price increases that are coming with Magic the Gathering. And the continuous flashy cards and, Pringled curling cards and all these issues. And it seems the more faster paced and more product they try to ram to the market, you can tell the R&D doesn't have the focus time, so more cards have to be banned. You can tell the quality control for curved and misprints and jump starts and Commander Legends collector boxes continue to be problematic because they're in such a hurry. And of course, combine that with, if in doubt, blame it on the pandemic. Am I right? I think in 5 years from now, people are still going to blame it on the pandemic because that's just human nature. We all have to have a bad guy. We all have to have a joker that we have to point to. So, with all of this being said, packaged all together, what does that mean? As a whole, I think this continues to be the highest octane gasoline that has ever existed to be poured onto sealed product in old cards. I think even, the Beta Unlimited cards and Arabian Night card prices today are still considered cheap. If I didn't consider them cheap, I would have stopped buying by now. I think as long as Magic booms, lures in new players, those players go through the cycle of life and eventually find their way into getting frustrated that their standard single cards depreciate at a very extreme rate. What's the joke on the market? I can't afford to play standard, isn't that the joke? So I think they will eventually find their way to vintage and old legacy reserve list cards as the majority of players who go through the machine of Hasbro go through. I still firmly believe that the reserve list should be reevaluated, and I feel that to protect the integrity of new players and the money they're putting into the game, the reserve list in a different, unique form of expansion should occur, no matter how much hate and threats I get for it. I feel new players who join the game, even if it's an art reserve list, where they reserve list a certain artwork or the certain frame of a card, something needs to be put in place to protect the financial cash and capital that new players put into the game. The new people who join the game and young players that are putting money into Magic, their money needs to be respected and protected. That's my opinion, and I feel that those players and those new, younger individuals and generation should get the same tier of respect and protection long-term if they're spending tons of money on Magic that the older player base who's done this a long time are getting. I think it should be treated equally across the board and looked at carefully. So that brings me to the third part of this video. I don't want to get too much in that reserve list talk because, of course, people are going to get angry and just go nuts on me. But I really feel it is important to not have customers experience, paying flashy card prices and then losing 50, 60, 70, 80, 90% of their financial value when they go to a store or a buy list or an event in the future and they spent $10,000 on a new modern standard collection that's worth $2,000. I think that's a very bad customer experience, and it's a very good way to disenfranchise your own players long term. So, as a whole, looking at all this universe beyond, I think it's Wizards' subtle way of saying, that, be prepared, because things are changing. And a lot of people are not going to be happy with it. And a lot of people are going to like the artwork, like me. I like a lot of the flashy artwork. I think it's pretty cool. But with everything being flashy, it's very clear that nothing is special. And it's reflected in the value of foil prices. It's reflected in the value of alternate arts, extended arts, and all these things because, I never thought I'd live to see a day that Wizards can release a flashy look at, what's a good example I was talking about the other day with somebody? Was it Core 2020 or Core 21? Has the tutor, right? No, not tutor. The book. Oh my God, what was that card? Not Vampiric Tutor. Maybe that was Commander Legends. There were some mythics in Core 21 that have like full art, extended, beautiful treatment to the artwork. Okay, and the cards have like no value, and it blows my mind that we can have an amazing, powerful card reprinted and in a gorgeous special version, and to see it be valued at pennies on the dollar just blows my mind. And it speaks a lot of volumes for the direction of how the market is responding to Wizards of the Coast when they manufacture these cards. So I'm gonna tip over, since very few people are watching this late in the video, I'm gonna tip over to Pokemon and Flesh and Blood before the end of the video. On the world of Pokemon, it's interesting how their print runs in print variants are very different than Magic. Yes, in Pokemon you have the chase cards and the GXs and EXs and full arts and secret rares, and you have that, right? We all know that exists. But what's interesting is that Pokemon, still the cornerstone, the building blocks of Pokemon, is the booster box. The same booster box. And the Elite Trainer Kit. And of course, stores have a bunch of little, 2-packs and coins and little fun things, but essentially Pokemon, the world of high-end Pokemon, and the world of LGSs and customers exists in two manners. You have the booster box, and you have the ETBs, the Elite Trainer boxes. That's it. And it amazes me that Pokemon has made Magic the Gathering look like a fucking child's play, just playground of garbage. And Pokemon can have two simple product lines, and they can leave Magic in the dust. They can crush them and make them look like they don't know what they're doing. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that incredible? Why isn't there a Pokemon collector box? Where's the Pokemon set box with the Commander deck, pre-constructed Pokemon? I mean, what, the little $10 things in your local Target and Walmart and local Amazon shelf? It's all just, that's all fairy dust, Fugazi product. The market of Pokemon is 99% Elite Trainer boxes and booster boxes. And it blows my mind that they can smoke Magic in the dust. And they have not done any of this flashy stuff. They didn't raise prices 10 times over. They're not about to release a Modern Horizons 2 set box, draft box, and a Modern Horizons 2 collector box with super foily, flashy fetch lands. And it's going to be some outrageous price that you all don't even want to know. I mean, let me put it this way. $200 Modern Horizon 2 boxes, you think that's expensive? You think those Modern Horizon collector boxes are going to be $200? Historically, collector boxes are double the price of the standard box. Sometimes 3x the price if it's a good set. sometimes 4 to 5x if it's Commander Legends example. And, you know, and I see that. And it blows my mind. And it just cracks me up because, you know, everybody's using the term scalpers in Pokemon. That's the famous word in the Pokemon world, is scalpers and evil flippers. And it cracks me up. In other words, those are very abrasive, sharp words for the free market in a secondary market in an economy flowing and functioning. You can use scalpers and aggressive words and terminology if that makes you feel better. But at the end of the day, Pokemon has the booster boxes. And the booster boxes are still like wholesale $80. And yes, I hate to break it to you all, it's okay for all these stores around the country to try to make a living and actually have profit by selling an $80 Pokemon box for even $150, even $200. Holy crap, the LGS is an evil scalper. No, they're not. If that store was around 5 years ago, that LGS lived on ramen noodle soup. They didn't make any money. And now they have the opportunity to, and people attack those little stores. And it's a terrible thing. It's the free market at work. And it's the same concept with Flesh and Blood. As long as I see extreme negativity towards me and anybody else with the Flesh and Blood thing, I know it's going to rock the world. Now, when I start seeing a reduction in negativity towards Flesh and Blood and more of an acceptance, I'm actually going to become a little bit more bearish and concerned. As long as I continue to see people saying Flesh and Blood is a bubble, these prices are unsustainable, the game is a shim. I was thinking of shims on a vehicle. Why are you getting shim? The game is being pumped by shills like me, not shims, I'm sorry. Shills like Rudy and other people and all this stuff. And as long as I continue to see that, I know that we got something special here. And if I truly didn't believe Pokemon was continue to overtake Magic, if I truly didn't believe Flesh and Blood was here to stay, I wouldn't be a part of it. It's the same thing with Pokemon, the same thing with Flesh and Blood, and it's the same thing with Weiss. You know, I've been doing massive amounts of transactions with sealed Weiss booster boxes in the last 6 months. I have been very hesitant to discuss it publicly for fear of moving the market because it's a very thin, small market. But the only thing I would like to say is by the time I start disclosing what I have and showing you guys the Weiss and what's going on, I should be around 5,000 boxes of Weiss spread apart over the last like 10 different sets. That's really all I have to say about Weiss. But back to, and I'm sorry, also Force of Will. The first time in years, I'm seeing a substantial uptick in Force of Will. And I'm really caught off guard by that. I genuinely didn't think Force of Will was ever going to just go to zero or actually recover. And we're actually seeing an uptick move in Force of Will. I'm very, very surprised by that. But again, we're seeing strength in all collectibles. So we have to take everything with a grain of salt, whether it's your Digimons, your Dragon Ball Supers, your Stepmom, or Force of Will, or Flesh and Blood, or Pokemon. So that's really my speech of everything, folks. I think, in conclusion, Magic Universe Beyond is the title of the next chapter of Magic. And it's warning all of us that we're transitioning away from a Magic, Urza's, Mishra's lore and cycles and storylines into an era of just crossovers with pop culture. And I believe that's the future of Magic. I genuinely believe the future of Magic is not going to feel like the past of Magic. I genuinely believe there's still going to be a lot of money in it, and I don't think it's going to fail. And I think the reserve list is the most beautiful thing for investors and collectors because of where we are in the world. I genuinely believe that new players need to have their value of all the money they're putting into their hobby needs to be respected and protected. I stand by that. I genuinely think that Pokemon and Flesh and Blood are going to rise up to really take over a lot of the CCG world. And I think they're really going to put a dent into Magic's future. I really do. Pokemon is just unlike anything I've ever seen. You can't downplay their success. And when it comes to Flesh and Blood and the rate of change with Flesh and Blood, I think it's the result of the first new CCG getting traction in a modern social media internet era. So the rate of speed, the velocity is moving at like 10x the speed of what we would see in the 90s of price movement and trajectories. And again, the negativity is the most bullish reason. I know Pokemon and Flesh and Blood, even Force of Will and Weiss and all these card games are going to flip and flourish, man. The future's incredibly bright, and Magic's going to have a lot of competition, man. Seriously.